Welcome to another episode of the Youth Action Podcast. This is the third episode. I'm here with Daisy Witts. Say hi, Daisy. As I was saying to Daisy before we started, I was considering what to do in terms of a podcast. I knew that I was coming here to get an idea about what it was like for Daisy to do her volunteering because she's done so much. But also thought it might be a good idea to put an episode of the podcast out as well. So this episode really is going to be kind of a hybrid between the two. So I've got like a set of questions that I'll kind of dip into. I'm not going to just like read through them like bit by bit or anything. We'll kind of see what comes up. If I find like, I'm not getting the answer that I might be looking for, then I might ask one of the questions. But just starting with the fact that we are in your front room here in Ampthill might be a good start. And I, on the drive down here, I got this feeling about Ampthill being a bit twee and a bit sort of like slightly villagey.
Yeah.
And there's not many places that I think of where I've driven around that have like they sell like fireplaces and things like that. I mean, no shop sells fireplaces where I live in Milton Keynes because it's just not that kind of thing. And you think, how on earth do they make money? How many fireplaces do people really need? Things like that. So I kind of wanted to start with just asking you what it's like kind of growing up around this area. What does it have to offer? What keeps you occupied? And generally what it's like, really.
Well, yeah, I don't think many people actually go to the fireplace shop, but there's like a lot of kids live in my area, and we usually just like hang out together and stuff, and we just...
What do you do?
Well...
Or is it the girl thing, like talk?
No, I don't. Well, there's a lot of clubs, we do stuff there, and...
Mm-hmm. Like after school clubs, or like what sort of things do they put on?
Well, there's scouts and like guides and all that for everyone. Then there's like sports clubs at the schools, and I think a lot of people go there.
Is it like one of the few things you can do? Are literally people gravitating towards that because there doesn't appear to be much else?
I think a lot of people like my age just walk around town and like spend a load of money. But then there's a lot of people who do go to clubs as well and just do stuff there. Yeah,
I suppose the assumption is like if you grow up in like a big city or town like I've done, that there was always something to do. There's a bowling alley, cinema in Milton Keynes. There's like countless things to do if you've got the money. Actually, I mean, money is a big part of it, but working in the sort of arena that I do, which is what's called the community and voluntary sector, we're quite tied into councils and how councils run, and there's constantly stuff around keeping young people occupied, because there's this fear that if they're not occupied then they're going to get destructive, and they see that as a link with like youth offending and vandalism and stuff like that. That's the assumption, that if they've got nothing to do, they're just going to spray their names over like buildings and stuff. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sensing much of that in the Ampthill area.
No.
It seems all right. It's just it. Like a mate of mine lives here as well, and he's got two younger daughters in school, and they seem perfectly happy, and they read. They're quite sort of bookwormish, and it seems to be enough to do at least.
Yeah.
Or is it that classic thing where you're like, well, if you haven't got anything to do, you find something to do?
Yeah, I suppose there's the massive park as well. A lot of people hang out there and just walk around, I suppose.
With your social group, I'm imagining there's sort of kids that are similar to you at least, and if you look at say other social groups that hang around, the hoodies, if you like, the sort of kids that you might have at school that are a bit more destructive. Do you notice those around Ampthill, or are they just not here? Or
well, I don't think any of them live in Ampthill because we have 3 other catchment schools. One of them's Woburn, and I think Woburn's the more destructive people.
Yeah. Okay.
I think everyone who came from like the schools in Ampthill and Flitwick, they're mostly all right. I think in Fullbrick, that's the dodgy ones.
Okay. And I mean, you don't have to name any names, but I mean, what is it like being in a school? I'm thinking back when I was at school and how I used to deal with it. So I'm interested in how you sort of how you or even the school kind of deal with the disruptive element, if you like.
Yeah, it's just a lot of detentions. I think we've had many exclusions as well.
Yeah.
It's usually like detentions, then you'll get isolation, you'll go and report, and you have to get all your lessons signed each day. And then you'll get excluded for a couple of days.
A lot of like punishing elements in it to try and control them, I suppose.
Yeah.
Right. That's probably been an area that you haven't really gravitated towards. I guess you're a good kid. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's I mean, when I think back when I was at school, I was definitely a quiet kid. I was definitely a sort of geek nerd sort of kid, and I hated the spotlight being on me.
It's the same as me. I don't speak at school.
Do you not?
No, I have like one friend, and I don't speak. I'd never put my hand up in lessons or anything.
Why not?
Just get scared I'm going to get judged by the disruptive kids.
Interesting that you say that, because that was my reason why I didn't really draw any of the spotlight to myself, because I had this fear that, like, let's call them bullies. I mean, for want of a better word, most of them were bullying other people.
Yeah.
And they had this ability to sort of put the spotlight on you with what they were doing. You know, I mean, I remember like one young girl, I probably better not tell that story actually, that's a bit racy, but yeah, she kind of, she put the focus on me with one of her actions that really embarrassed me, and you know, this quiet kid just had the spotlight, you know, and people are like, you know, and if that's like the fear, it's amazing if you think about it, how much power they've really got, you know, and they had this ability to disrupt classes and, you know, all of that as well.
Yeah.
So interesting. So there's someone like yourself who probably just wants to get on with your schoolwork or whatever and kind of make your life better, and some of that process could be kind of interrupted as well by other people.
Yeah.
Do you think it works, that whole detention-y stuff?
A lot of the time, but also like people, the main thing that's disrupting everything at the moment is people roll up their skirts. Just like all the popular kids and stuff, and so they go around and they've got this thing like skirt points, and you get a skirt point, and if it's too high it's supposed to be on the knee, and they like go around measuring them, and
wow,
and then once you get a certain amount of skirt points you're not allowed to wear a skirt anymore. But then they don't want that, so they cause more disruption and like just wear the skirt anyway.
Okay, what do you think all that's all about then? The whole like rolling up your skirt bit. What's going on there?
I don't know, they just want to attract people.
Yeah, get attention.
Yeah.
You think it's to get attention, or to rebel? I don't know. Is it about
Probably
that?
A bit
Like,
both.
I'm gonna try and get some independence within this conformist society of a school. I don't know. I don't know if it's that deep, but you know, same thing with my school. Like people used to mess around with their ties. You know, 1 minute it'd go like an inch down. Then it'd go like an inch down, and then
and you have it massive and fat.
Massive fat. Yeah, I mean,
That's what we did in my
amazing.
middle school.
Things like change.
Yeah, we don't wear ties in our school. So.
Did you get involved in any of that like rebellion-y stuff? Did you have your own little personal marks now and again?
Not really.
Yeah, just kind of happy to go along with it.
Yeah.
Seems like the best way. I mean, some people would argue that just sort of going along with it is being a bit of a sheep kind of thing, as they say, you know, but I think for the easier life, that sounds like the best thing to do. I mean, you've got an interesting perspective from like being a girl, and the girls that are rebelling are the girls that are doing the skirty things. I mean, do you have like nothing to do with the boys then? Is that like boys look after the boys and boys bully the boys, and then the girls have their own separate thing?
I think they do mix quite a bit. There's like the popular boys and the popular girls. They're all like one massive gang. And then there's like the nerdy groups, and that's boys and girls as well. And then there's just like the odd other people, and they just get on with it.
Social group, like, do you have like the emos and things like that? Yeah. I mean, it's funny how things don't really change in that sense. But what group would you say you're part of then, out of all of those?
I'm probably more of the unpopular people.
There's some value in that, I think. Well, I mean, what also defines the popularity? Because if you talked about like the most popular ones kind of have these massive gangs, then what defines the popularity? But because they're doing bad things, or because they're doing good things?
It's probably bad things that gain more attention.
Okay, all right. So
I don't think the people who do good things get noticed as much.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gossip goes around about everyone who does like rebelling and things.
Mm-hmm. It feels a little bit like it's a bit dramatic, but like a bit of a war. Do you know what I mean? You've got like your different factions, and you're just trying to survive at the moment. You know, with trying to get out of school as unscathed as possible. Have you been on the receiving end of any of that stuff, or is your strategy working?
In middle school, I was, but at the moment, I'm not really. I just get on with it, and it's kind of gone okay. Mm-hmm. I used to speak in middle school, so probably may have been why, and then I stopped speaking and nothing's happened.
Okay, something changed? What? You lost your voice a bit? Why? What was that all about?
I've just got anxiety and just don't really like speaking.
Anxiety is a bit of a theme of these podcasts, I have to admit. Like the two girls that I also did those with, it's starting to kind of dawn on me that it is just extremely common. It just is, and it, you know, we word it in different ways sometimes. We word it like, well, I'm not very confident, or I'm a bit quiet. But you know, under the surface, it does seem to be kind of anxiety. I mean, you being able to identify even that you've got anxiety at such an early age is interesting to me, as well as, like, is it talked about in schools? Do you talk about it with your mates? Do you share in that difficulty, let's say?
Yeah, I do speak about it a bit at school, but I'm just new.
Kind of get on with it. I suppose it's good to kind of talk about it, I suppose, but it also might depend on your understanding of it too. But yeah, it was I used to regard myself as a quiet kid, but when I look back, I was probably just a bit anxious all the time, you know, because going back to the analogy of like there being a war kind of thing, I just wanted to like keep everyone back and sort of get through the day. It really was that at times. It was just getting through the day with as little scarring as possible, I think, at times. So, how old are you now?
15.
15. So that's around an age where you're thinking about your future, choosing certain lessons. What kind of angle are you going with that?
I'm going more towards like, I want to go into health and become like a nurse specialist. My sister's disabled and I want to specialise in her conditions. And so my subjects I'm doing at school at the moment are French, history, child development, and art. So I'm just going to try and get through and do that.
Kind of a mix of things.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't quite see how French sort of ties into the health.
I've got a family who live in France.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay, good to communicate.
Yeah.
I suppose
I speak English, but.
Yeah.
I've been doing French since I was in year 1, so.
Pretty fluent then.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it easy then at school? Are you just breezing it?
Probably.
Good. So you've got like an idea about your career already and about specialising in disabilities. I can see how that might have came about with your sister being disabled. It's always interesting to see like what people choose as a career. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to be a fireman, and there was a part of me that maybe liked the idea of like rescuing people and kind of, you know, being the big man, I suppose. But it was also, like, I've come to realise, very socially acceptable in my family. So sometimes that can define people's career choices as well. I knew that I needed something that the family would accept. You get what I mean? I didn't go down that route in the end, but would you say that your parents have had any kind of influence over what your career choice has been, or do you think it's all coming from you?
Probably a bit, just because like they've been in hospital a lot, and I kind of know about the conditions, and I know like the operations she's gone through. So I guess I've had that. Otherwise, I wouldn't know about it, and
You okay talking a bit about her disability, you know, what it is? And
she's got craniosynostosis, which is where the bones in her skull fuse too early at birth. So she, like, when she grows, her brain knocks against the side of her skull. So she's had to have loads of operations to prevent a thing called intracranial pressure. That's where, like, there's too much pressure because there's not enough room for the the brain to expand. There's the intracranial pressure can lead to like death, so it's like a really important condition. It's like 1 in 60,000 babies have it or something, so it's really rare as well.
How is it affecting her in day-to-day life?
She's doing okay at the moment. She hasn't been in hospital for 6 years. But then when she started not going in hospital, I got epilepsy, so I like took the glory, but she's doing okay at the moment. And
like we talked before the episode started, really about how you manage that. Just do you want to say a little bit about what that's like for you and how you?
Yeah, I just kind of get on with it. I think the last time I counted it was 32 pills a day.
Is that what you're on right now?
I think so.
Oh wow! To help manage manage the not having it, I suppose.
Yeah. I still have seizures, but they're not as bad.
What are they like? Are you aware of them when they're happening, or does everything go black? I don't have much of an understanding.
Well, it all goes. Well, I have 5 types of seizures. There's tonic-clonic, which is the stereotypical, you go stiff and start shaking. Then there's absence, which is where it's like a massive daydream and you just don't understand, and it's like a chunk of your life has just been missing and you don't really know where it went. Then there's focal, which is where it's a bit like absence, but you'll be blinking. Then there's tonic, which is just you go stiff and like collapse. And then there's myoclonic, where a part of your body will just jerk for a while.
It's like you have a choice. You know what I mean? I've got 5 different ones I can choose from.
Which one's it today?
Did you say it's been a while since your last one?
Well, I have myoclonics every day, but the last massive tonic-clonic, the stereotypical ones, was probably 2 years ago. But recently I've been collapsing because of it, and so it's kind of got worse this last couple of months.
So what does that mean to like these 32 odd pills that you're on? Because surely something isn't working somewhere.
Yeah,
is it like which one, or?
Yeah, we've moved on to a new drug like a couple of weeks ago, and we're just trying to wait for that to kick in. We got to wean off the others and wean onto a new one, so we got to wait till that's like fully on and see whether that one helps.
Do you I suppose I'm thinking about what it'd be like for me. Like I'd be on tenterhooks all the time because I've changed my medication. I'm like sitting here like waiting, wondering, are we all right? Are we good? Kind of thing. Is it a bit like that? Or?
Not really. Most of the time I just forget I have epilepsy and I just get on with like day-to-day life.
Yeah. The best way to do as well, and I think like I'm only asking these questions really because, like I say, I've got no frame of reference for it. But if you've lived with it, it sort of just is part of your life. By the sound of it, you don't really know any different. Why hasn't everybody else got it?
I guess I'm like a lot of people are born with epilepsy, but I only got it at 11, so I kind of know what it's like to not have it as well. But it's like changed my life a lot, I suppose. Everyone else started walking to school and doing things on their own around year 5, and I first left the house on my own in year 9. So but it's okay. I don't really just get on with it.
Yeah, it's just adapting, I guess.
Yeah.
I imagine like your parents give you a lot of support with that as well and run you about if necessary. And is there anybody else in like your school or your friend group that's got it, or
no?
Any support networks or anything like that you've accessed?
No.
No. Well, there might be a case for it not being necessary either, but my experience of people that are have something that they either don't quite understand or they just need to offload on how it is for them. Sometimes it helps. Maybe not with epilepsy, but certainly things out there.
I used to go. My sister, she went to Keach. I used to go to this thing called Sparklers, which is for like siblings, and you offloaded about her conditions. So I used to do that a lot, but not really for my own. I didn't have epilepsy when I did that.
Okay. Did you find those groups useful?
Yeah. To be honest, I was quite young. I didn't really know what was going on, but
yeah, I think. I mean, we know Keach quite well because it's like one of the volunteering opportunities there as well. And I mean, when I visited, it was tough. Like, I I hadn't experienced anything like that before. Not to say that it was bad and anything that they were doing was bad. It was just
it's amazing.
difficult. Yeah.
It's difficult seeing all the patients and.
It was the kids thing. It was like, because I'd met, and it was just about forming the volunteering opportunity and making the connection with the main point of contact.
Yeah.
And we sat there in like the cafe chit-chatting, and it was all light and wonderful and all that. It's just, do you want to look around? I was like, yeah, cool, I'll have a look around. And I think, like, if you work there, you're really quite used to it.
Yeah.
And you're really, and there's something about, they're sort of consistently positive, and if not like overly positive, because they kind of don't want to go there with some of the stuff, and they can't really professionally either break down and stuff. So there was me, sort of new to it, and she kind of walked me into this room, and she highlighted that like all the kids had very limited lifespans. They were very young, and they were like clapping and guitars and toys and things like that, and it was all from the outset very, very positive. But I could not help myself. There was a few tears, like just kind of, and I was like, I need to go. It was just, it was difficult.
Yeah, I suppose I'm used to like seeing things like that with the constant hospital stays when she used to stay in hospitals, and we go to a craniofacial support group where we meet children with similar conditions from all over the world, and so we like are used to seeing children and things who have like fatal conditions, so I suppose it's not so bad for me, but when you're not used to seeing things like that, it would be horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it also puts you perfectly placed to go into that line of career as well, because you've got a huge amount of experience in it, and obviously they'll be looking for sort of professional experience, but the fact that you've gotten quite accustomed, maybe is the word, to it, that other people might not, puts you perhaps at a bit of an advantage in terms of your career. And I mean, I'm always interested by sort of what kind of shapes people's careers. Yours is certainly quite obvious, but I like this period of time, this 15, 16 years old, where you're thinking about what you want to do kind of for the rest of your life. I mean, it doesn't have to be written in stone either. I mean, I bounced around a few different things before I decided what I wanted to do. But I think sometimes it's a bit of a big ask to think about what you want to do when you're just a teenager. Yeah. But isn't it great that you've already got a pretty solid idea of that already? Doesn't it take some of the pressure off of like I've got to think of a career? Or, I suppose also because we know the people because there's 4 craniofacial hospitals in the UK, and because my sister goes to one of them, we know a lot of the people who work there. So they've already given me a work experience placement in the craniofacial ward, and a lot of other people wouldn't get that. Like, it's really difficult to get hospital work experience places, especially because I've got one specialising in the area I want to go in. That will help me a lot with it, and I'll just be able to get there probably much easier than I would if I just went to like a school, like which what most people are doing. Is that the plan though? So like you obviously you have GCSEs. Is that what they're called these days?
Yeah.
Right. So you'll complete those, and then what's the plan after that?
Then I'll do my A-levels and then go to uni.
A-levels, then uni. Got an idea about what uni? No. Is that too early to be thinking about that? Yeah. Okay, cool. And then presumably after the uni, then you go into a job, or at the very least, perhaps the uni offers placements. Maybe do you have to get a placement? Or?
I don't know.
Right. I mean, some of the education that I did, it was a requirement. To get a placement. I went into counselling like after I'd like bounced around like retail jobs and thinking about. I didn't really think about what I needed to do till I was about 22. I was in like a shelf stacking job. It was a nightmare. I hated it. I mean, it's a fine job to do temporarily, but this sort of idea dawned on me that I felt like I was a good listener. The reason for that is because I didn't like talking. So of course I'm going to be a good listener. So I got known as a good listener, and I thought, well, I could probably channel that into a career, and did a counselling course, did some psychology stuff, and I think again, if I look back, that is also what defined what I wanted to go into, because as a bit of an outsider and quiet, I didn't really get the world. I didn't quite understand. I didn't understand people socialising particularly. I didn't understand the certain social groups. I didn't understand the bullies and why they were doing things. So there was a need for me to, I think, to understand psychology is the word that I'd probably transform it into in later life. But I believe I was quite confused about what life is all about and what people are all about. So I think I gravitated towards psychology, certainly. But also counselling, I think, probably same as you, really, just kind of wanting to help people find their way, I suppose, and kind of get through it. So it's, I mean, I can say that now at my age, I can trace sort of why I've ended up in my line of work, really. But you know, you're at the very beginning of that process. Quite exciting, really, I think. Do you wonder if sort of having epilepsy will affect any of your sort of career choices or anything like that? Are they funny about things like that?
Well, maybe.
Not that should stop you. I'm just wondering if you're aware of it.
Well, they think I don't even have epilepsy at the moment.
32 pills says otherwise.
I went for an EEG scan and now MRIs and loads of tests, and before they showed the same abnormalities as an epileptic, and now they're just normal. I'm still having seizures, so I don't really know.
It's so confusing.
Yeah, it shows how much they don't know about epilepsy, and just I've been referred to a neurologist, so maybe they'll know a bit more. And
yeah, I mean, I think I've heard a little bit on podcasts about what it is about, and I think some of the stuff that I'm listening to is quite American centric, but they might be regarded as quite at the forefront of sussing things like this out. And you know, hearing about some quite radical treatments recently, particularly using drugs like cannabis oil and things like that, this sort of new wonder drug, you know, and I've kind of, I wonder how far we are in the UK of sort of adopting some of that stuff, and I wonder if that might help like your condition. I don't know. Have they suggested anything like that? Or?
No, there's also the ketogenic diet.
I'm on that myself.
And that's supposed to stop seizures.
Okay, so tell everybody what a ketogenic diet is.
Basically, I don't really know. It's that you cut out fats, or no, you cut out carbs and eat more fats. Isn't it?
Yeah. Drop the carbs, drop the sugar. Like, my mates hate me because I'm banging on about it all the time because it has been life changing for me. I have to say, there's, I think, a toxicity to sugar and carbs and the way that your body kind of processes them, and I have long suffered with something called IBS, and that probably comes from being an anxious kid anyway, because it's all internalised. And I suffered with that for years. Nightmare, you know, and just, I won't go into it, a bit embarrassing, it's all very bodily fluid stuff, but when I switched to this ketogenic diet, that was a result of listening to a podcast about a guy that said I had IBS. Now, to talk about it in kind of past tense was really unusual. Most of the forums that I'd found online were all about, this is a nightmare, loads of people suicidal, they just couldn't cope with it anymore, it was ruining their lives. And I kind of thought I was on that path, you know, I was kind of, that probably would be me in like 10 years' time or whatever. But to hear a guy say, I used to have it, and this is why, and he talked about the ketogenic diet, and I'm like, I'm going to give it a go. You know, what have I got to lose kind of thing. And I now don't have it anymore. It's insane. Which kind of makes you wonder, like, just how damaging that stuff is and how it can affect your physiology and your, whatever goes on in your brain epilepsy-wise. I kind of wonder about that as well. I mean, have you tried it yet? Have you started on it yet? Or,
no, I think it's a bit...
highly recommend it.
I think it's a bit dodgy to do it, like, at such a young age. You have to be like much more careful than you would. You're still growing, you need the carbs to... I'm
not an expert from a sort of dietary and nutrition point of view, but I would argue that, I suppose, by my experience, that because you're switching to fat, that is your energy source, and it's a more energy efficient energy source. Obviously, I'm not big, you know, I have lost quite a lot of weight as a result, and I'm kind of hovering around like 10.5 stone at the minute. I really shouldn't be any lower than that. I do a lot of exercise as well that kind of helps everything, I'm sure. But I noticed the power that sugar has. I see it all the time. I'm like hyper aware now, where I see kids your age that are on the monster drinks, and they're, you know, banging donuts left, right and centre, and it's just this constant addiction. It is an addiction. And the thing that you notice the most when you first get on it is the headaches. is the low energy to start with. They call it the ketogenic flu. You just
Yeah.
feel ill for a bit, but once that passes, it only takes like a couple of weeks at the most. You're not on death's door or anything like that.
Yeah.
You can just push through it. But after I got through that initial point, I feel good. I feel great. I feel a lot of mental clarity. I think I've got more access to like my words in a way. There's not this like cloud, this clamminess that sometimes comes as a result. I let the diet go a couple of days ago. I had like a whole lot of cake, basically.
Yeah.
And I had the crash. I had the sort of sugar crash a couple of hours later. I wanted to sleep. I did. In fact, I slept for like 2 hours. Ridiculous.
Yeah, a lot of children are on the ketogenic diet, but I think you've got to be careful. It depends how bad seizures are. If you have them like every day, like constantly, then you should try it as a last resort. But there's also the epilepsy surgery, where they remove the part of the brain that causes the epilepsy.
Blimey, that sounds
which
extreme.
is really dangerous, yeah. And someone we know has had it, and he's been a year seizure free. He used to have probably about 20 a day of the stereotypical massive ones. He used to have loads, but now he's fine. Like, he's changed so much, and it's just fine. But you've got to be really careful with things like that. You have to learn how to walk again, learn how to speak again.
He did?
Yeah.
Did he?
You've got to learn everything again.
How far are you in considering that?
I don't think I would. Well, hopefully I can grow out of it, but I don't know.
It feels extreme, and maybe it's a bit new as well, the whole surgery,
Yeah.
taking that part out. But just as the ketogenic diet's new, and like, I feel quite poised to observe what is coming out about it, and I don't know anything about, but I'm sure if you put a Google search in ketogenic diet and epilepsy, there'll be a load of info, and obviously you have to. Obviously, you've.
They hand out leaflets at the hospitals as well.
Interesting, they're pushing it as well. Good. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So I thought the hospitals would be a bit resistant to that because it's sort of.
Yeah, there's like a massive section about you have to see a dietitian and.
One of their dietitians.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I know. I've got a bit of a cynical attitude, I suppose, as a result of my experience of trying to get something treated and it not. And at one point they offered me antidepressants for IBS, and I could have been on antidepressants to try and manage something that I could very easily manage with the change in the diet. So I don't want to put the NHS down or the doctor. My friend's a doctor. I don't want to put them down, but I think the people that do really care still exist within a system that is quite antiquated. I don't think it catches up as quick. There's a sort of hesitancy, I think, when new things come out. Oh no, we've got to spend 2 years researching that before whereas internet-wise, it's out there. The information's out there for people to try, regardless of like advice or whatever.
Yeah.
And it works or it doesn't work. I can't speak for the people that might have tried it that it didn't work, but I can always say that it worked for me.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of a good sort of streamline, I suppose, into kind of internet, the internet culture. And like I grew up in a time where the internet didn't exist. Kind of so what's it like for you having this internet thing available, ready, right there for you?
Well, it obviously helps a lot with school, and they've like got compulsory ICT lessons and stuff. But then once you get to GCSEs, it's not compulsory anymore. At least it isn't in my school. You just use it for homework and stuff. And other than that, I think a lot of people go on like online chat rooms and stuff. It's a bit dodgy, but
how do you use it other than schoolwork? How is it in your life at the moment?
Social media probably. That's the main thing.
What sort of things?
Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook. I'll just go on there and just,
Much time spent on them?
Well, I don't have a phone at the moment. It's been broken for 2 months, so.
Whose fault's that?
I don't know.
Oh.
It just won't turn on.
Oh.
It's been charging for that whole time, and but usually it's probably like a couple of hours a day.
You've got used to it though by not having it. Interestingly enough. Yeah. How have you managed that?
I don't know.
I suppose there's always other things. I feel a bit dependent on my phone, certainly. I think I wouldn't go as far as say I'm addicted, but I am. It's everything. Do you know what I mean? It literally it's my music, it's my social media, it's my email.
my mum asked me to do something, she'd be like, oh, text someone saying you're not coming today, and I'm just like, no, I can't, I don't have a phone. It's just like impacted me so much, like I could be late for lessons because you check your phone.
Oh, you got that your timetable on your phone, have you?
Yeah.
Wow, they've upmarketed it. Yeah.
You go to the wrong one, or you check your time on your phone and you don't know what it is because you don't have a phone. And
Do you feel the loss, or you?
I did before, but now I've just kind of got used to it.
Got involved with life, perhaps, as an alternative. I mean, there's a certain aspect of it that it's all very virtual, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
You're chatting and all that virtually. You know, I had a little example of this a while back where I got into online gaming, Xbox, all that. You know, me and my mates used to meet up. You know, Battlefield, all that, shoot loads of people, loads of shooting, basically. And it dawned on us that the only time that we ever met was virtually. You know, through the mic. Chit chat, barely, other than how's it going between like loading screens on the game or whatever, but mostly get over there, I'll cover you, I'll throw a grenade, all that. It's just not really relating. And we've all got into this new board game craze at the moment. I don't know if it's affecting your generation, but my generation, it's like crack, to be honest. It's like really like, oh, this is amazing, we've got to get involved with that. But as a hobby, it's brought us back together, which has been really nice. We are sitting opposite each other at a table and things like that, you know, which for a while it wasn't really happening. But it sounds like you're getting like a decent balance, though. You've obviously lost your phones out of the picture, but you've also got a way of accessing the internet for your social stuff, perhaps, but also you're being very social with your mates as well. Yeah. So that's good. I might go on to some questions about your volunteering, I think, at the minute. So, how did you come about knowing about us? How did the sort of whole process begin? Let's go right back. Not only us, but how you even came to the idea of volunteering at the places you did.
Well, I've been going to Scouts for 9 years. And just when I finished that, I didn't really want to go on to Explorers, which is the one after Scouts. So I decided to become a young leader. That's what a lot of the people did. And I did that for my bronze DFE as well. And then when I was doing my bronze DFE, our DFE coordinator told us about youth action, and he explained like we could get the 10 hours volunteering and all the other awards.
What school were you with? Was it?
Redbourne School.
Okay.
Just by doing the volunteering for our DFE as well. I don't think a lot of people did that, but...
What, the DFE you mean? Or?
No, the extra awards, like with youth action, I think they just forgot about it.
Ah, okay.
But
do you mean they went and got their own, or they didn't do it at all?
They did the bronze DFE, but they just forgot. I think they just forgot to like sign up to youth action and get involved with that as well. But I did, and then I just found I love like volunteering with the Scouts, and I just carried on. So I've been volunteering there for 2 years now. And I go on camps with them. I went on camp last weekend. And
what's it like if you're being sort of on the other side, because you've kind of gone up through Scouts?
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
What's changed?
A lot of them are my mates, so I just have to like shout at them, but then I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't mean it.
Because you got to tell them what to do and stuff.
Yeah.
And order them about. Who do you think you are? Okay, so that was the first question about like what prompted you to volunteer, so around DFE, getting some experience as well. Heard about youth action through school. I mean, Redbourne was a bit of an experiment for us in the early days, because we tried to get in like all the schools, and like Redbourne were very receptive to us, and we did like a great rake of like the assembly presentation, which is the most efficient, effective way that we can like get the word out there, by being there in front of about 200 kids in the year group, explaining about the benefits of volunteering.
Especially because there's so many people in our school. I think on year 9s there's 400 of them.
There's a lot.
Yeah, so especially with massive schools, it would help it get out like so much more than say if you did like a small middle school or something. Yeah,
I think. Yeah, there's a bit of an issue at the minute about like getting back into the schools, because obviously we did them and those young people have kind of moved on, or they might be in a better place to do volunteering now, and we're just sort of having trouble kind of getting in, as it were. Because I know, like, teachers are super stretched at the moment with time, and to answer an email from me saying when can we come in tends not to get answered. It is pretty difficult at the minute.
Yeah.
But good that some of you kind of picked it up. The D of E coordinator was quite key in sort of getting us in there at the time as well.
Yeah.
How was the process as a whole from the point that you decided to register with us? Was it easy? Was it hard?
Yeah.
Resend your information?
Yeah, it was really good. Like, obviously the emails, I think it's each term about all the different volunteering opportunities there are.
Mm-hmm.
I think that helped a lot with finding other ways to volunteer other than with the Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a lot at the Rufus Centre. And they've just got my application at the Elizabeth Curtis Riding Centre.
Cool.
Because my sister used to go there, so they know us, and I think that helped a lot with finding other ways to volunteer in it as well.
How was the Rufus Centre ones? Tell us about what that involved.
Well, there was a few. There's children from probably lower school. They did like loads of activities in the summer holidays and things like that, and then you just helped and like. Yeah.
What was it like for you doing that though? Was it how was the whole experience working with like little kids that need to be managed?
It was good, but it's a bit odd. I don't really have people that age in my family, so
bit unfamiliar.
Yeah. No, but it was really good.
Cool. I think they continue to do volunteering stuff, but they don't always tell us.
Yeah.
So it's not always put out there. So I think you might have a bit of an inside knowledge sometimes as well.
Yeah.
Maybe. In the time that you've been volunteering, what's changed for you personally? For example, like what skills you've developed and what you've noticed in yourself has changed?
I've probably developed a lot more like being controlling and things. Like before, I wouldn't have like shouted above people or stuff like at Scouts. But now I suppose I know I can control them, and I can like get them to do things if they're like messing about and stuff. So I guess it's done a lot with like self-confidence and yeah.
Okay. Did you find like you were just like left to your own devices, or were you part of a team that would help out? Or...
Well, there's the 2 main Scout leaders and there's 2 other volunteers. They're just doing it for their DOV though, they're not going to carry on. Then there'll be the other Scouts. When they leave, they're going to join and become young leaders as well. And so we all kind of just work together. We take it in turns to like organise games and things.
Okay. What made you sort of want to go for the Elizabeth Curtis one? Like, 'cause it's been on the book, so to speak, for quite a while. I suppose it's an age thing, isn't it? I suppose isn't it 16 plus?
I think it was 14.
Oh, was it 14? Maybe it's 14. So what?
Know.
Why now? Like, because you've been like registered with us for quite some time. Why sort of now go for Elizabeth Curtis?
I was going to do it a while back, and I sent them an email. They just didn't reply.
Let us know, by the way, if that ever happens.
Yeah.
And, for anyone listening, I would say if you have any trouble with it, then just get us involved, because I wouldn't say we have a lot of pull, but we can chase them up a bit more, because we're like, working hours and stuff, 9 to 5. We can just make calls and stuff to try and catch them. So have you not had anything back from your application yet?
Well, I got an email yesterday saying they've received it and it's being processed.
So. Good to know. All right, that's certainly quite good. I haven't heard them do that before, so that's pretty cool. What would you say to people who were considering volunteering but haven't actually done it yet?
I'd say definitely do it. Like, join Youth Action and try like one of the smaller things that you don't have to commit to like every week. So, say the Rufus Centre things, you could do that. It's only, I think it was an hour or something. Instead of doing like Scouts, like that's 2.5 hours every week. Just try and do a couple like every now and then if you want to, you can build it up. So. the larger commitments.
Yeah, I think you just sort of do whatever you want. I always sort of say to young people like that believe that by entering into something you're stuck there, you've got to do it sort of thing. But I always try and say, look, they're grateful to have you there, and whatever time you can offer will be great. But I mean, I know, how many hours have you done so far? I think it's quite a lot, isn't it?
Probably, I don't know, I haven't been on Youth Action thing for ages. I think the last time I went on there was probably about a year ago or something.
Wow. You've got to put your
I
hours
think that
in,
was
you
like
get certificates
300
so
hours or something. So I've done more than
the last one. You got the 100, have you?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay. So yeah, one of the certificates that we do. So I mean, once you get to 100, it's sort of like there isn't really anything, but it's nice that you kind of carried on doing that as well. I think I might finish there actually. Really, thanks for sharing your experience. It's been good, and I think that other people will find it quite useful.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks very much, Daisy.
That's okay.